the Coke bags out?
Yeah, but only 7, and I think I put in 8.
Just push, pull. I mean, twist it.
It's not a puppet, it's my asshole!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Backlot Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel, and I am, of course, joined by my co-host who shoves cocaine up his butthole, Tanner Dykstra, and today we're here to talk about a movie that isn't out yet, and frankly, won't be for a while because we attended South by Southwest at the world premiere of the film Joyride, and we're here to talk to you about our thoughts early, before the film comes out, one of the first group of people to get to see it. And first of all, thank you to everyone involved. We got to see the whole cast. We got to see the crew. We got to see Seth Rogen. It was a huge pleasure. But as the serious film critics that we are, none of that South by Southwest horseshit's going to change our minds about the film. So this is a serious, full-on review of Joyride months before it comes out. Tanner, thank you very much for joining me.
Of course.
And the audience, who, of course, should like our video, subscribe to us on YouTube. You know what to do. But Tanner, give me your first, very early thoughts on Joyride.
Oh, so early, Tucker. Now, you're of course right. We did see this at South by Southwest, and you say that that's not going to color our review at all, but I have to say, I think it does impact my experience with the film, especially with a comedy, a raucous comedy like this, seeing it in a packed theater who are seeing this at a world premiere. Because there are plenty of laugh-out-loud moments in the film Joyride. It is a rated R, raunchy comedy. We got Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg as producers here. It's very Apatow in that sense. It's very frat pack in that sense. It is just a laugh out loud experience where you have four leads who are very well balanced, as Tucker you wrote about in your Letterboxd review. Thank you. They're very well balanced. I think they all have good arcs. We get some very memorable scenes here, and across the board, my thing here is that Joyride is about as good of a movie as these like frat pack Apatow comedies, raunchy comedies in the modern era typically are.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I think the reason this movie stands out in my mind and why it's easily one of my favorites of the year so far is because that's not a type of movie that we've gotten theatrically released, full studio backing for a very long time, it feels like. I think back to, like, I don't know, Tag. But that...
It's better than Tag.
It is better than Tag. I would say a lot better than Tag. And I think that it's because this film feels so fresh and distinct from what's releasing around it. Most of the comedies that we see nowadays are relegated to streaming services. They'll have a couple of stars in them, but they never get that theatrical release. They don't get a theatrical studio backing them. And Joyride felt really fresh to me because of that. Also because it does offer a new perspective on comedy with an entirely Asian team behind it, writing it, directing it. Director Adele Lim, who was the writer for both Raya the Last Dragon, which we were kind of mixed on, and Crazy Rich Asians, which I think is very good. Yeah. Bringing a new perspective and a new voice to this, but maintaining that same sense of raunchy, fuck around bullshittery that makes this genre of film so much fun. And all of these characters in the cast, I think, fit so comfortably into that. They're expanding that genre, they're making it their own, and they're bringing a modern perspective to it that I think makes it so fresh and feel very genuine to me.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the comedy here, because as I said at the end of my opening thoughts, that it's about as good as these films are, I think. And obviously, you're right, I am thinking back to the films that we grew up with, your Talladega Nights, your Hot Rods even, which is probably my favorite of like the frat pack group of Apatow comedies. I don't even know if Apatow was a producer on that one, but I don't have an especially high esteem for those films, even though I did grow up with them. But as I said, I do think this is about as good as they can be, because it is, wall-to-wall jokes. It is character arcs in here. But at the same time, I feel like it falls victim to a couple of the same things that those films do. There's some flimsy writing in here a little bit. Like the connective tissue is a little bit loose, a little bit thinner than I might like. But by and large, if you're going to this film to laugh, you're going to laugh. If you're seeing it in a theater, and by God, I hope this film doesn't fall by the wayside when it comes out in July.
It might, but I hope not.
You will be laughing for sure, because they don't pull punches here, and that's what I was really impressed with. They sell this as a raunchy comedy, and it is maybe the raunchiest that I have seen from like a major studio release, and it's really surprising to see. It was really refreshing to see these kind of swings being taken of, as Tucker seeded a little bit, a sequence where our characters are doing drugs, shoveling drugs inside of them in all of their orifices, and then having to act completely natural, and obviously it all goes awry. There's a sex section, I guess you would call it.
Sex montage.
Sex montage with all of our characters. Well,
sex training sequence.
Sex training sequence in many ways. And there's even, there's a music video sequence set to Cardi B's WAP that is a bit of a remix with our characters. It is taking some swings, and I do really appreciate it for that.
Yeah, I think the comedy is what it makes it feel so distinct in this modern era. I was saying there's not a lot of comedies like this that are released theatrically, and because this film looks the budget and looks the studio production, I think it does feel like, hey, we're putting a lot of this really weird shit and weird jokes and things you don't really want to hear people saying, but you're picking between your fingers and plugging your ears a little bit like, oh, why are they saying that? That's weird. But it's so funny and it's so well delivered by our cast that it ends up being incredibly compelling. And I would push back a little bit on the connective tissue being thin, because I do think that what makes this film as great as it is in my eyes is that I felt that there was a really solid backing behind all of this. The story of our main character, Audrey, searching for her birth mother, involving cultural displacement and the conflicts that comes with that, the bonds between her friends, the dynamic between the group, and the arcs that each of them go on across the course of the film, they all felt really solid to me. I think the emotional payoff was really well done. I think the actors and their bonds together sold this history that each of them have to one another. And because of that, the comedy was, of course, a very big focus of this film, but I was also just invested in these characters in their normal lives and the conflict and a unique perspective that they bring to telling a story like this about a group of Asians and the being displaced and the cultural differences that we don't see given this kind of attention. And from that angle, it felt really fresh. And for me, I felt really well done and strong enough to support a film that is mostly about sex and drugs and cocaine and all sorts of crazy shit, but also has genuine thematic value, I think.
Yeah, and I wasn't talking about that when I said the connective tissue. I'm talking about key moments in my mind where I'm like, where the film is like, okay, this sequence is done, and X thing happens, and we're going again.
Yeah, sure, that's definitely fair.
Yeah. But
we got to snowball into the next wacky scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time to waste, because this is a tight, 95 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I'll get the 92 actually. Damn, it's short.
What was I saying?
Where'd it go?
Oh god, everything moved. Okay, and Tucker, you are correct. I do like the Asian perspective on this. I mean, it opens our realm up to an entirely different area of jokes.
Yeah.
And I didn't always grasp them 100%, but it's not completely exclusionary of non-Asian audiences.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas that maybe can't be said of these films that starred an all-white cast. A lot of your Apatow frat pack stuff. And harkening back to that comment I made initially, because it might sound a little bit, backhanded that this movie is as good as these movies can be. I think, I personally am of the belief that anybody should be able to make whatever movie they want, and there are a million of these movies that have an all-white cast that are primarily male-led, and I think that we should that is completely fair and earned for a female or non-binary Asian cast to have their movie like this as well.
Yeah.
And it's very well done in that regard. So yeah, Tucker, I have a question for you, just to open up a little bit more specifics on the cast here. Who was your favorite member of our core four?
That's actually a really good question, because I'm going to pull the cop-out answer and say none of them, because I really do think it's the dynamic between them that makes this film sing so much. And because each of them, of course, across the course of the film, I think got their time to shine. There are sections that focus on each of them, develop their history, develop their backstory and their dynamics a little bit, but also give their sense of comedy time to shine. And while each of them fill similar jokey roles, there's not really a straight man character to play against. I think that Well, I guess Audrey's kind of the straight man.
Audrey would be the
in a
straight
sense.
man.
Yeah.
I think the connection I drew was with the seminal classic trilogy, The Hangover.
Sure.
I think is what we have here. We have Audrey, who is our Bradley Cooper, who is largely our straight man here. And I gotta go with my personal favorite. Maybe this is just big name bias here, but the Ed Helms in Hangover I feel is Stephanie Hsu in this.
Sure.
She has her straight-laced life a little bit. She's trying to be this professional actress who's trying to maintain this persona for her Christian boyfriend, who is ultimately dragged into all this nonsense, into her old debauchery with all of her friends. And I think she does that very well. I mean, with her character, we get to walk both lines, where we get a character who is like, I don't want to be doing all of this. This is also crazy. And then ultimately, she is taking part in it as well.
Yeah.
So I think we get the best of both worlds with that character archetype with Stephanie Hsu.
Yeah, absolutely. She is so funny in this movie, and her comedic timing that we saw a little bit of as Joba Tupaki and Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think is given basically the entire movie to go with, because she's able to swing back and forth between the two types of comedy, of playing it overly straight-laced, so straight-laced that it's funny, and then being one of the raunchiest characters in the film. But I think also her dynamic with her name is Kat, and her dynamic with Sherry Cole's character Lolo, I think, is hilarious. The way that both of them are vying for Audrey's best friendship, and they have this history that is sort of parallel to one another, but then diverges in certain key ways. And Sherry Cola and Sabrina Wu and Ashley Park are three actresses that I'd never seen do anything before, and now I'm completely sold on whatever I see them in next. And that is the mark of a iconic performance, is I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna relate them to the role of Deadeye or Kat or Lola or Audrey, but I want to see what they do next, because their comedic timing, their dynamic, the intrigue that they brought to these characters, and certain unique aspects that you don't really see pulled up in characters like this in these kind of films of being a K-pop stan. That's not something I've never seen a main character of a film portray before.
Yeah.
I'd never seen a character be like a starving artist that is like super sex positive and wants to make sex-based sculptures for her art. Like, there are elements to these characters that these actors embody, and I just thought it was great across the board. So my answer is the group of my favorite character, the gang.
Yeah. Tucker, you listed them there, but Sabrina Wu is also fantastic as the Deadeye character, the K-pop stan.
They're so
character.
funny.
They are the weirdo character, essentially. They don't know how to operate in regular social circumstances.
But also, in some ways, they're the heart of the group, of being the most earnest and most honest in situations. And I think that dynamic really works.
Like the Zach Galifianakis, essentially, of The Hangover, where they are the odd character out, but they're also very earnest and heartfelt in the moments where the film needs to shift gears to be quite emotional. And I think they pull that off in stride, as does all the rest of the cast.
Tanner, what do you think you would give a score for a good old joyride here?
I'm gonna go a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go a good movie. I'm gonna good that even a little bit more. I'm gonna give it an 8.3 out of 10. I think this is really an addition to comedy's canon, and I think that having the backing of someone like Seth Rogen behind it really shows the confidence in the quote-unquote old guard of comedy that, hey, we're stepping forward into a new era, and we're putting forth new voices, and Seth Rogen fully supports this, and he's backing it and everything going forward. I really hope that this team gets back together again. I'd love to see a sequel to this film. I'd love to see, obviously, everyone involved with this get more jobs, be able to spend this off into their own Hangover-esque and frat pack type kind of group that can inform the voices of people going forward, and just continue to fracture comedy into like all sorts of different mini genres and small areas of history that we can say, I hope, 15 years in the future, looking back, like, we got to see the beginning of the next Hangover Superbad era of comedy films. And that's kind of what it feels like to me. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what the box office of this is. It's kind of pinned between a couple of big,
it is positioned
giant blockbuster
roughly.
films.
So here's what I'll end this review with. And Tucker, I'm throwing aside all senses of objectivity that you said at the beginning of this video. I'm going to end it with a plea to the audience. Go see this. Okay,
please.
Just go see it. You're going to be seeing an Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny the week before, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning the week after. Okay,
Part 1.
Part 1, excuse me. Just find time the week in between. go catch this at the theater. You know, bring some friends if you can. The bigger the group, the better, I think, with films like these, where you can all just sit together and have a good laugh, you know?
Yeah. And hopefully have some memories of iconic moments or funny jokes that you will continue to reference going forward. That's the great part about great comedy movies, is they become cultural touchstones of certain jokes or certain actions or certain moments become things that you reference with your friends and continue to bring back and forth into the future, which is what gives them that iconic status. And I hope to be on the up and up for supporting this film, so for referencing some of these things and hopefully giving it that iconic status it can ideally have going forward.
Absolutely. Don't bring your parents, unless your parents are real cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't bring your kids regardless. That'd be bad.
Yeah, don't bring your kids. This is a rated R film.
Even if they're cool. Well, thank you very much for watching, everyone. We will see you guys for future movie reviews. No more early previews. This was our only one. But, hey, it was our first, and it was fun.